for the diaspora. I said no. With or without a new constitution, the diaspora must vote. If you don't let the diaspora vote, you are disenfranchising a huge chunk of Gambians, which will really not be good for our democracy.
Just yesterday, citizens of Guinea Conakry, they residing here in the Gambia, they voted in their presidential elections. And yourself, Doctor, you were a very strong proponent or advocate for Gambians in the diaspora to vote. You even, when I was doing my research today, I remember your video. You were talking about Guinea Conakry, that those people are voting in Gambia.
You want to disenfranchise them from voting. While other countries, even Guinea Conakry, even Guinea, their diasporans vote. Senegal, their diasporans vote. Why can't Gambia do the same thing? Guinea is far much bigger than Gambia, their population-wise. Senegal is far much bigger population-wise.
Where are we with that? What's your commitment to that? Because that doesn't seem like it's happening.
The first question is directly addressed to me. One thing I can assure the public is that government is still committed. Ensuring we extend the franchise to every government, no matter where you live. That is government's commitment. Government has no intention to deprive any government of the franchise to vote. And if we had it, if the laws were possible, we would have done that. Now, we came to realize that you made comparison to Guinea Conakry. Remember that most of the French-speaking countries don't have an independent electoral commission, and the elections are organized by the state through their ministries of the interior. That makes it easy for them to use the existing embassies. But also the type of voting we have, they don't have the marble and the drum and the sieve, like they have a paper balloting, which is also easier. So logistically, it's a challenge. But the laws itself, in terms of demarcation, the constitution is very clear that you must vote in a constituency where you are registered. And the diaspora is not demarcated. I think this calls for I don't see blame game taking us forward. What I see is a reflection of what do we need to do as a country, all the stakeholders, civil society, government, electoral independent committee, to sit together to see what do we need to do based on the framework of the law to make it happen. That is, demarcation has to be done. We have to change existing laws. The legal framework has to be right. Logistics has to be right for us to make it happen. Government has no intention to stop diaspora from voting. They're an integral part of our country. They contribute a lot to our GDP, and we want them to vote. But the laws has to be right. Logistics has to be right. And I think it's time for us to have that debate, that even countries that have implemented it, even they've passed the law for diaspora to vote, it took them sometimes 6 years for implementation. And I think the conversion has to start now, all together, all of us, to make it happen. But one thing I can assure the public is government is committed to expanding the franchise to every Gambian, no matter where you live. That is the one.
The first one, those in the diaspora who look and say that National Assembly members aligned to the NPP government voted out those laws, which should have been in the new elections, which has just been passed. Diaspora was there. I don't know if you were following the debate. It's unfortunate the Justice Minister isn't here. But the diaspora clause was removed by members aligned to the NPP.
Well, I cannot speak on who voted and who did not vote. I'm not aware of the voting patterns of the National Assembly. That I don't have the details. But I can tell you is that if that is the case, it's for them to answer that question. What is important is you cannot bring a law which is not in line with the Constitution. If the Constitution is saying that for diaspora to vote, this should be in place, and it's not in place, I think it is perfectly right for them to vote for that. But like I said, the blame game will not take us ahead. What is important now is for us to sit together as a country. We want diaspora to vote. They want to vote. That is our commitment, like I said, as a government. We don't have any inhibition whatsoever for diaspora not to vote. We want them to vote. Now, what do we do to sit together and make it happen? That is what the debate should be about now. But if you want to do blame game, who voted, who did not vote, it will not take us anywhere.
I think that the vote as reference relates to a technical issue. For the fact that what those who voted it down, explanation were that at the time, at the material time, this was not provided for under the Constitution. To the extent that it's not provided in the Constitution, and then you provide for this, then it's inconsistent with the Constitution. So how do you reconcile that? Second, at least flip it that way. the draft constitution 2024 also came with diaspora voting provisions. But then the opposite camp also voted it down. So I think the blame game wouldn't help, but the sincerity and commitment to make sure we have a constitution that allows for diaspora voting, which both sides seems to agree that it should happen.
I said no. With or without a new constitution, the diaspora must vote. If you don't let the diaspora vote, you are disenfranchising a huge chunk of Gambians, which will really not be good for our democracy. Now, we've been saying this almost 2 years ago at the first Gambia conference. Now, what do we need to do to ensure that diaspora votes? At that time, 2 years ago, what are the strategies? What is the roadmap? First, we have to identify, do a census. Where do most Gambians live in the diaspora? That would really be worth for us to take ballot boxes there. 2, how much would it cost to ensure that they vote? And 3, what is the roadmap? Nothing.